Hi, I'm Anna, the content creator for Marshall Communications. Earlier this week, I had a really challenging recipe with Chinese soup dumplings, and it was very difficult to do. And it reminded me of the first time I tried to make homemade pasta. For our wedding, we got a KitchenAid pasta attachment, and I was so intimidated by it that I didn't touch it for practically a decade. And then the first time I tried to make pasta, it was a disaster. The dough didn't come together right, and then I didn't do it again for a really long time. But when I finally got up the courage to try again, I figured out how to make the dough the right consistency after doing a deep dive into Google. And now I make fresh pasta all the time, and there's nothing like it. It's the best thing. So I'm gonna try to show you one of the ways that I like to make pasta, and I hope to encourage you to do the same. So I've sifted one of the kinds of flours that you can use. Today I'm using the type 00 or 00, I'm not sure. Anyway, it's really popular for making pasta. I've used semolina flour, which is awesome. I've used all-purpose flour. I've used whole wheat flour. You can use any kind you want. Semolina is a little bit tricky because it's so dry. So if you're starting off, don't start with that. You make a little well with your flour and a little pinch of salt. And you crack some eggs. Into the little well, and then you just start mixing the yolks, and I just sort of slowly start incorporating flour. And sometimes, you know, your little moat springs a leak. It's not the end of the world. As long as your countertops are nice and clean, it'll be fine. So I'm going to mix this together and then get it to a doughier consistency where I can start using my hands more. I always love how this looks. I think it's very beautiful. Okay, I'm going to add some olive oil too. It says a tablespoon. I don't like to measure things. And depending on how dry the climate is that you're working in and how big your eggs are, you're going to have to add a little water. And so when I start kneading it, it's going to depend on how dry the dough is, if I add more water or if I add more flour. It's not rocket science, you just gotta go with the flow. So I know my dough is ready because it's not sticky anymore and it's really soft and smooth and smooshy. So I'm gonna roll it up in a ball, wrap it in some plastic wrap, and then just leave it on the counter for half an hour to let it rest before we roll it out. I'm going to sprinkle some flour on the countertop because the dough has rested for half an hour. And then I'm going to divide it into 2 pieces and keep this one wrapped up until I'm ready for it. And then you just want to roll it out a little bit so you can get it through the level 1 on the KitchenAid attachment. You don't want it to get too wide because don't forget you're going through that size of an opening, and all it's going to do when it gets smushed through it is wider. So I can probably run this through one time, but then I'll probably have to cut this piece in half for it to work properly. So level 1, turn to 2. So I have this one piece of pasta. It is very thin and beautiful. And it's really long, so unless you want noodles that are this long, I'm gonna cut it in half. And then I've attached my linguine, or fettuccine, I guess. I don't know. Noodles. So, I used to use my laundry drying rack, which worked just fine. But if you want to be a little fancier, you can get one of these little doohickeys. And then when you run the pasta through the machine, just drape it over so it can start drying a little bit while you make the rest of the pasta. And you can use the pasta drying rack to completely dry your pasta, like for storage, and then it lasts a long time, just like regular dry box pasta that you buy. And yet it still tastes so much better. Doesn't it, Albie? It tastes so much better. I was really surprised actually that dry pasta, even if when it was homemade, even if it was dry, even if it was 3 weeks old, it still tasted almost as good as fresh into the pot pasta. So I'm gonna go through and do the rest of these pastas, and then I'll show you what we have, how much pasta we have at the end. Here's this beautiful rack of pasta drying. Now you can pop it in boiling salted water right now and cook it for a couple minutes and then test it to see if it's done. Or you can let it get a little bit dry while you're prepping other ingredients and then just check it. It should never take more than 5 minutes to cook. I'm making a recipe from Mel's Kitchen Cafe called Beach Street Lemon Chicken Linguine tonight, and her recipe calls for regular pasta, and I think making it with this, it's gonna be amazing. So I'm excited, and I'll share a picture when I finished it.